Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad, this is my channel Animate Orange, and welcome to another ICONX build video. Today we are going to put together from Game of Thrones this wonderful dragon that I believe is called Drogon? Drogon? Not sure how to say it because, again, I haven't watched the show. We're going to start putting this guy together. I say start because this is part one of a two-part video. This is a kind of a long build. Let's go over to the table, open it up, see what's inside, talk about some tools, and begin putting this thing together. And here we have the package of the Game of Thrones dragon. And this is an ICONX package, but if you notice, it is thin, like a Metal Earth package. Tall, like ICONX, but thin, like Metal Earth, which we've kind of covered this before. The Game of Thrones models are all ICONX models so far, but their packaging is a little different. However, we still have to either tear or rip the top open. I've already given this guy a tap on the table to try and make sure nothing's in the way. Let's see. On the back you can see, before I open it all the way up, I should maybe point out, you can see the two sheets, the completed model, some little tips, no glue. I mean, most of the time you can put these together without the necessity for glue, but it happens. Some other models in the lineup. And we have the difficulty scale, and this one's kind of in the orange, on the harder side of things. And our 360 view, we can scan this with a phone or tablet and go to a website where we can supposedly see a completed 360 view if it's up and available. Sometimes it's not. But inside, we have two metal sheets placed back to back with paper in between them so as not to damage things, so it appears. Put that to the side. We're going to look at the instructions, which are two pieces of paper folded a little different than usual, folded to fit the long tall package. We'll start with this one and open it up. Open it all the way up, a little bit more than fits on the screen. But this is basically your assembly flowchart, parts and everything you need, instructions you need to put this model together. We're going to talk briefly about this. I'm not going to spend too much time in case there's people watching that have built these models they already know. This is your first model, though I don't know I'd suggest with this one. We're going to go over the instructions very quickly. Starting at the first page, you've got your usual Metal Earth logo. Again, we have the QR code that you can scan to go to the website to see a 360 view, or just type in this address. We have metal sheet A and B. They've actually labeled them A and B, which is kind of nice. And you can see it's just an outline of the parts, and you can see all the part numbers around it pointing at the different parts, so you can find what you need to clip out and put this thing together. I'm going to grab one part as an example. Give me a moment while I figure out. I think this is part B. Yeah, that seems to match up. So this is metal sheet B. You see it's the same pieces, this outline down here, and all the parts are pointing, all the numbers are pointing at all the parts. Also point out, while I didn't grab this sheet A, you notice a few things are highlighted. These two yellow pieces are both part 33. These two green pieces are both part 28. There's not a lot of example of it in here, but it's common for Metal Earth to color in like pieces, so they only have to label one, and you can easily find it and the duplicate parts, because these are probably parts of the wing or something, because there's one on one side, one on the other. They're mirrors or duplicates of each other, and they get used in more than one place. It's very common for things like cars and trucks with wheels, arms and antennas and things that are more than one, and they just, rather than crowd things up with multiple numbers, they just do the one. Anyway, sliding over to page 2, we have the ICONX number, outline of the dragon, the part, or the completed model. To create the best connections, and this is just a little kind of instruction thing and legend to kind of help you make the parts. Show an example part with slots, fold lines, and tabs. Tabs ultimately go into slots to connect things. Fold lines are just pre-scored areas that are scored or marked on the metal to help things fold or bend or shape, however. You have the legend down below. E is pointing at an engraved side. I is inverse side, just kind of knew that's probably non-engraved side, or the side opposite of where the color or engraving is. This is an attention point. It's usually trying to get your attention about how things align, though that's not always the case. Whatever this is pointing at, take a moment to study it and find out why they want you to pay attention to that point so that you don't get something wrong. Blue circle, green triangle, these are connection areas. Blue circle means to insert a tab in its slot. Remember the tabs and slots. Insert a tab in its slot, bend it or fold it over 90 degrees. Green triangle, insert the tab in its slot, twist it 90 degrees. Twisted tabs tend to be more secure. Folded tabs tend to look better. A lot of times the folded tabs are on the outer side, visible areas. Twisted tabs are on the inner areas, or areas that really need to be secure. So a folded tab may not hold it tight enough. Recommended tools. We've got some suggestions here of clippers and pliers and tweezers. We're going to talk about tools here in just a moment. But below that, we start the assembly steps. With step 1, we have part 1, which is on sheet A, so A1, that's the part there. It's also got a 1 on it. Folded into this shape. And this is kind of a sub-assembly. Points over here, you have the part. We have part B2, same thing, curve it into this shape, and these connect together with these tabs folded over. Slide over to the next part, we have A3, which is folded over like so and connected with a folded over tabs, and you end up with that part. And that's really the gist of it. You follow through, shaping things is indicated, and as you can see in these curved parts, there's a circular area going around kind of indicating that's how you shape it or curve it. And there are sub-assemblies sometimes. Sometimes the sub-assemblies are just basically showing you the part before it's shaped. Other times it may actually be an assembly. Of course, once you get down to the bottom of this page, you flip over to page 3, just follow along the arrows. I'm trying to see if there's an example of a sub-assembly where 2 or more parts come together and then connect to something else, but I'm just mostly seeing shaping things. But of course you continue on following through the different sections, going from page to page, following the arrows in the assembly process and putting things together. Sometimes these little boxed off areas, this is a good example, or what I call sub-assemblies, where you have part B50 and part A51 that it shows you shaping this part and then adding, curving and adding 51 in to get that final part, which then goes down here. There's not much examples of sub-assemblies in this assembly process, but that is something that Metal Earth commonly does as well. So let's take a moment to talk about some tools. Let's talk a little bit about tools. The very basics of what you're going to need is a pair of tweezers and some clippers. The tweezers, you can do a lot of bending, shaping, twisting of tabs, folding of things over. The clippers are going to help you get the pieces out of the sheets cleanly and easily by clipping them out instead of trying to bend them out, which can cause damage. I've also supplemented my set with some precision tweezers. I have a couple of pointed ones here. One, I ground the tip down just a little bit to give it a more sturdy tip for tabs and twisting things, and then I have a precision flat set, and between all of these I can do a lot of bending and shaping and twisting. I also strongly recommend some sort of pliers to complement your set. I have some flat nose here that have definite uses. I have some long needle nose pliers for some of the longer pieces, and then I have some curved tips for grabbing things at an angle and bending them over. For shaping a lot of curves and dome shapes and whatnot, you'll see me use an array of 3D printed tools that I've designed that you can find on my Etsy if you're interested. Otherwise, you'll also see me pull out a cheap drill bit set that I have that's not sharp for shaping cylinder shapes, or just look around your house and use objects that you find like dowel rods, pencils, maybe some beads to shape certain things. We've talked a bit about some tools. We've got the instructions, the metal sheets, and some basic tools to get me started. Let's start putting this thing together. Right from the start, we are shaping sections of the neck or tail. I thought about trying to use a tapered tool to curve them, but after looking at the way they connect, I decided it wouldn't even matter. I was going to end up bending and opening things up to get things inside of other things connected anyway. I didn't want to bend the tabs at 90 degrees, hoping that a more open angle would make it easier to attach the sections. Such was not the case. As I was going along, I am quickly realizing that not only am I putting each successive piece inside, but each piece seems to be bigger than the last. I'm wondering, would it not make more sense to start with the inner pieces and then add the outer pieces on top? However, with this section, it might have caused just as many, if not more problems doing it that way. As the pieces get larger, flexing the tabs into slots gets tougher. I had one tab that did not want to go all the way into its slot. I'm feeling this metal is a little softer than usual and the tabs are not as tough as they need to be to hold up being pushed through these slots. Now that this section is together, I decided to break out a taper and try to shape it the way it is supposed to be. Interesting that this large part is labeled on the instructions as part 9, but has 10 stamped on it, when all the previous parts had numbers stamped on them that matched their part number. Things went fairly smoothly up until this point of the step. One tab did not want to cleanly go into its slot. It was admittedly a stretch, and the tab wanted to bend out of shape instead of pushing through the slot. I ended up folding this tab in and not connecting it, instead relying on the tab on the other side. If I had kept trying, I am sure that tab would have broken off at any rate. I bent the tabs in a little too far. Starting with steps 4, I decided to do the flowchart backwards. I thought, instead of trying to squeeze parts inside of other parts, why not stack the parts on top of the other parts? That makes more sense. I started with part 16, then added 15, then 14, 13, 12, then 11. It worked pretty well. Might not have gone so well for step 1, but this backwards method did work well for steps 4, 5, and 6. I did have trouble with a couple of the tabs not wanting to slide into their slots, and I only attached 2 of the 3 tabs. had trouble with a tab or two in step 5 as well. With step 6, not every connection was held together by 3 tabs. On one hand, this is good because the small space would mean tighter tabs and more difficulty getting things in place. But on the other hand, with 2 of them only having 1 tab, there isn't much to hold the part on. I wasn't going to play around with parts falling off, so I added a bit of UV glue to hold things in place. And that brings us to the end of part 1. We spent a lot of time putting together the abdominal area and parts of the neck and tail. In the next video, we'll start putting together the legs, the wings, and bringing everything together to a complete model. So look out for part 2 coming soon. If it's not out already, we'll see you there.